2, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Ich möchte euch alle begrüßen. Ich danke für die Einladung.
Welcome to all of you. Thank you for inviting me to III IBKA. And I would like to pass on to today's topics. My talk is about, will the world be better without religion? The world without religion, will it be improved? One with question mark and one with an exclamation mark. So the motto of this year's convention, I would like to display that or to illustrate it along the lines of the situation in Switzerland, also along the lines of my personal situation, and to show how we can contribute to a better world. I believe that some of you might be interested to follow up on our activities. I am available in social media. The Free Thought site can also be found on the internet. This is my favorite joke on free thought or free thinkers. Are you a free thinker? Yes, but I do not practice. This is something that religious people say. Yes, I'm a believer, but I'm religious, but I do not practice. So I'm a practicing free thinker, and I would like to break down the labels. I'm an atheist, so atheism is my attitude. It's a non-faith attitude. I'm an agnostic also with regard to philosophy. We have a lot of pantheists, well, not many, but some pantheists in our association. We have some anti-theists, especially in Switzerland, who really work against things, and I'm that as well, partially. We have the term of religious or a-religious. And I also see myself as a humanist. Then we have two more terms of secular humanism and evolutionary humanism. And I see myself as a co-worker of evolutionary humanism that takes a look at man, but is also compassionate or has compassion for animals, for the other beings, and also for people who will come after us. This is part of my understanding of the world. This is also about human rights, and if we talk about human rights, it's a little peculiar that sometimes we also talk about rights for, or have to speak about women's rights and children's rights, because women and children are human beings, but sometimes it is the fact there's more work to do. If we take a look at the debate about circumcision, this is an example for it. Maybe you know the agnosticism. I don't care if God exists or not. I'm probably also a rationalist, a secularist, and a laicist. And for me, this leads into free thought or free thinking. In Switzerland, we set up the association that fosters laicity. Laicity. It's not an ism. It is a state, that a state finds itself, and how a state defines its relationship to religion. So we can talk also about humanism plus laicity. So we represent the non-religious. We have been founded in 1908. We have branches in a lot of cantons. We stand for secularization, for the separation of state and church, or state and religion. We stand for humanism, or we promote humanism, information education, science and critical thinking. But different, or unlike in Germany, where you have different organizations for different things, different topics, we also need to cover rituals. So we have rituals for partnerships, for example, or for funerals, and we take part in political processes. And in my leisure time, I also take part in legal processes, like in lawsuits. But that's really a special thing.
Beispielsweise nehmen wir auch teil an
We also participate in evaluations of curricula. We take a look at the textbooks. So what about is religion part of the textbook and so on? So we do a lot of things with a lot of voluntary work. So these are the three pictures that symbolize our rituals. It seems very important to me to show you this positive aspect also, and to communicate to people that we do not only leave the church, and then you don't have a beautiful wedding anymore. I think a lot of people understood that, but not everybody. Or that you can also have a nice funeral. Then we have CamQuest Switzerland. It takes place the third time this year, and I'm very happy to collaborate or to work there with the skepticists in Switzerland. This is for young humanists and young free thinkers. We do a lot of work. We work on different topics, very interesting program and schedule. We are not anti-religious, but we're focused on humanism and on free thought. We have a partner village with the EHOI program, and we try to do positive things, having a positive impact there. Every 3 years, we organize a so-called Denkfest, a party of thought, with a lot of people going on stage. And every year we present also events with regard to the World Humanist Days and with regard to the Global Day of Human Rights. So it is important for us to be present in society, deal with us. We have our values and we are available to discuss them, and we present them. Most of you know this picture. This is the Swiss shield, a white cross on a red background. And we want to challenge the idea that Switzerland is a Christian country with regard to the coat of arms. Let me introduce you to my personal history. Some of you know details about my story. This is a so-called Corpus Delicti, Corpus Christi. So we had a conversation, I had a conversation with representatives of the local school authorities when I was a teacher, worked as a teacher in Wallis at a public school. I still work as a teacher in a different canton now, and in my leisure time I also work, so I teach politicians how to be have a more secular perspective. I try to teach journalists how they can improve their journalism, because sometimes you have really a lot of work to do there, and we need to inform them. So at the time I had a conversation with these representatives. So in Switzerland you have a sentence or a law, regulation with regard to crucifix. And I referred to that law and took the crucifix off the wall. This is the story with all the intermediate steps, and after an exchange of letters, it led to a dismissal without notice. And this is just only the case in Switzerland, that you get dismissed without notice in case of sexual abuse or things like that. So I was really taken out from a community room, and I was informed about the dismissal without notice. this, and I was only allowed to go back to my room at school when I was controlled and monitored and accompanied by somebody else. So this is the cross. The canton wanted to put it in a museum, but the school does not hand it over to them. So this cross is part of the history of Wallis. It's like 60-gram wood or how much ever. This is part of my letter of recommendation. It is a very positive letter of recommendation. So people can consider me as a good teacher, and where I work now, I don't have any problems. At my school, there was a right-winged teacher who was active in the hooligan scene and published things like that. And this is a newspaper from a Christian People's Party. So generally, it cannot be accepted that schools at our school work who promote groups with extreme tendencies. And a teacher with this kind of mindset will always try to influence the pupils or the students. So this letter was published by the Christian People's Party, and this letter is about me, not about the right-winged guy who was not dismissed.
Nicht Kanton, sondern ich nenne ihn meistens scherzhaft Vatikanton, weil
so this is, and I don't call them canton, I call them Vaticon, because it's kind of funny what happens there. So later on, you know, there was kind of a medial upset, and there were a lot of reports in the media. So who is that? This is not Jesus, this is Abgottspon, who celebrates his victory. So I won the case, I won the lawsuit. I did not see any money, but it was really an interesting topic that created a lot of public relation in Switzerland. This is a cartoon from the same newspaper. Last year, I supported the launching of an initiative for the separation of state and religion in this canton. And 2 weeks ago, we saw that we don't have 6,000 signatures, an amount that is necessary, but we continue to continue with this activity in order to be able to transport the Wallis, this canton, in, well, maybe not in the 21st century, but at least in the 20th century. So this is the logo, this is the Matterhorn. So come to us, visit us, it's beautifully with regard to touristic extraction. Politically speaking, we face still a little, some challenges. This is the law with regard to education, and it says that the teachers need to help children to become good Christians and provide them with education. In 2010, there has been a verdict of the European Court for Human Rights, Lauzi versus Italy, and that was a backlash for us, for our movement. It says that crucifixes sometimes can be part of the public sphere. This is not. I think yesterday we all rejoiced that Ireland approved the LGBT marriage. So we do not always lose if we ask people questions. You know, you don't always have to appeal in court, but there are different ways to move ahead. So then the Constitutional Court published a law with regard to crosses and crucifixes in kindergartens. A lot of people think that the Switzerland, with its half-direct democracy, is a utopia. So it's not that these rights provide us always with positive decisions. The ban of minarets has been criticized by us because it goes against one religion. So the right-winged circles launched this, similar to the ban of burqas, that has been pushed by xenophobic people. You know, and you want to consider who you join forces with. So as free thinkers, we wanted to underline that the construction law is not the right place to discuss religious issues. I'm liberal enough that the Catholics can continue to create their churches and spires, but you know, these phallic symbols, the spires, you need to challenge them. The Catholic Church, if it can, they want to exert their political power also. So the actual current discussions with regard to the ban of veils, of burqas, etc. So we believe that as a teacher, when you work in a public sphere, you need to do without ostentative religious symbols. But the discussion is difficult. It's not that the secular scene agrees in its positions. Let me talk to you about my experience. My feeling is that we have religious peace in Switzerland. So there are a lot of positive things, and we are not in a state of war. My case was an extreme case. It would not have happened in the major cities in Switzerland, and it would not have happened in other cantons, probably. Recently, along the lines of the day, everybody needs to draw Mohammed. Mohammed is one of those. He was censored because I talked about Aisha, and his penis is also censored. Joseph Smith says Hassa Diga Ibue. I don't know if the interpreter knows what that means. You see the spaghetti monster, and a bishop who recently said, in my canton, homosexuality is a weakness of nature and can be healed. It is my idea that Catholicism can be healed and intolerance can be healed. This is what I believe. And I commented on that. Who sows intolerance will harvest a shitstorm. And media object to these intolerant things, and I like that. So what happens is, if you say things like that, there was this nice Muslim guy. You cannot draw caricatures with Muhammad, and he called me a pedophile priest. And this is an insult, a double insult. To define a free thinker as a priest, this is already an insult. And he said, "Yeah, go to the gas chambers." So it's not easy to tolerate what they say. So if we discuss what they say, give peace a chance is not always the easy way to go. It's easy to, the other side feels insulted by smaller things, or we call them minor things, and it's difficult to present ourselves as tolerant. So it's not always easy to stick to tolerance. So I try to continue to be open for dialogue. And then he said that he wants to publish my picture, that the German Muslims know my face, but I did not arrive incognito here. So this is how the teachers or the school authorities would have loved to see me. In the background, you see Don Quixote, Don Chupanza. This is one of my favorite pictures. We fight against windmills, probably, but I think they do still exist. You know, I bought this shirt in Medjugorje, where I was invited by a Catholic to visit this place of pilgrimage. that. I wrote a text on this place also. So I continue to launch dialogue, to start dialogue, and I go to these places, and I enjoy that. And if the elephant goes to the lion's scarf, it gets a little difficult. So this week in Medjugorje was kind of difficult. This is another version of the picture.
Es ist nur eine Fotomontage. Wir sind nicht draufgestiegen mit
This is photoshopped. It's just a Photoshop picture. So this is about freedom, it's about tolerance.
Ich muss nicht jedes Gipfelkreuz weghaben.
Yeah, I don't need to abolish every cross, but just think of the tools and symbols of other religions, the flying spaghetti monster, or any other symbol. If we want to put these symbols on the top of the mountains, that would create a lot of upset. So we try to talk to people and explain to them that we don't have an extremistic position. I was called a fundamentalist. Well, it's kind of an honor. And what I also find important is I put fun to human rights. So I try to go about things with humor. Some people misunderstand me or like to misunderstand me. To put your finger in your nose is the best. To put your finger in your nose is the best way for a theologian to dig deep. I was accused of not having enough respect. So I believe that humor in Switzerland, Austria, and Germany is an important weapon. I strongly believe in that.
Wir können das nicht in allen Ländern so tun.
And this doesn't go for every country, because in some countries they would have sent me to prison. So I know that. But there are also people who do misunderstand me, believing that I don't respect people. I do respect the people, but I do not respect their ideas. And they don't like criticism with regard to their ideas, because they believe that they cannot be separated inside from their identity that they define as Christian or religious. So we need to manage to teach people that they can do without that.
Für mich ist nicht nur the free thinker wichtig, sondern
so free thinker is important, but also the doer. Free doing is important. Contemplation is important, but activities are also important. So we need to go to society and tell people, take a look at us. We are active, we are positive, we are a positive contribution for society. It's not that we only complain or think. This is not us.
Links, Bergoglio.
So, to your left, you see Bergoglio, the new Pope. Deschner said, criminals and popes change their name. You see the finger. There's a story behind the finger. I have an anatomic specialty. My finger, my index is one position to the right, and if I show the index, sometimes I switch the index finger, I sometimes switch the fingers. So what I want to show with this picture is that we need alliances, especially with LGBTQI, for queer and intersex, and we should not discriminate against the heterosexuals either, and include women. So whenever the church approaches us, and we just are a little nicer to the intersex person than to gay and lesbian, most of the time this is just a question of PR. And our principle is
sind wir gerecht.
We are just. I have a just perspective, and we don't have to forget that. You know, and I do apply self-criticism, and sometimes I'm too narcissistic, or you know, I go out too much. But I have to underline, I feel well in myself, and I think we're right. And this is an important aspect, I believe, and we should keep that in mind and not forget that. So some figures from Switzerland. We have reliable data, so major surveys, not just little polls. In 2012, they said that 64% find themselves in a distance from institutional religion. This is a good figure. It is a media phenomenon, but there's no return of religion in Switzerland. Religions lost their significance, their importance, and it became a phenomenon of the margins. In Switzerland, we have a situation where there's a lot of peace because we're well off, because everybody most of the people are well off, and we have social welfare, social security, and education. The peace model in Switzerland is a tolerance model in the sense of I don't have to hurt you if you don't hurt me. So we have good statistical reliable data with regard to these statements. Wynne Gallup, another survey, 26% of the 18 to 24-year-old define themselves as religious. This is a small amount of people. My problem is that you cannot convert this into politics. We need to convince politicians that they do not only not lose if they move ahead in a secular way, but they can win us. This is a very important point that we need to underline. So I also believe that we should take terms serious and take a look at what people say, what politicians say. And I believe, and this comes from one of my articles, we should not talk about Christian values or criticize them. If we talk about human rights, democracy, justice, and freedom, we cannot accept that people talk about Christian values or declare them as such. If we talk about these values, we talk about human rights, democracy, justice, and freedom. We need to take this time to express all these values. So people complain. So the one complains, why do you always criticize me? The Catholics tell me, why do not say something against the Muslims? Or if I say something against the Muslims, well, I do not speak against the Muslims, but I speak about Islam or political Islam. Well, please take a look at the Catholics. So what we do, you know, we cannot do it right for the people who want to misunderstand us. In informatics or in the user experience research, you have the DAO, and I established the DOP, the most stupid criticism. At a certain point, you will encounter it. So I don't withdraw anymore. You know, I try to be cautious in the way I express myself, but I move ahead. One more project that we should implement, the article I wrote, Mary assumption against rationalism or against ratio. So every 3 years, I suggest that we should carry out a test for national churches. So the Catholics would have to tick off a box whether they are for equal rights for women and for minorities. If they tick off the box, they get minus points because the Catholic Church officially does not approve. this kind of rights. So if you gather enough points, you are excluded automatically from the Catholic Church. You know, and the advantage would be that you have kind of an opt-in and an opt-out. And it would limit the political influence of the churches on the amount that is appropriate. So to come to a conclusion, I don't know whether time-wise if I'm okay. And we don't need only atheism, but we need more. It's very probable that God does not exist. We should take care of our life. We should enjoy our life, but we should also take care of the lives of others and not forget the animals. And this is like the measuring stick for me. How do we deal with animals? If you consume a lot of meat, for example, I would like to challenge that. This is something I learned. We should not always criticize the others. It's easy if we say the Muslims who come to Switzerland should change, you know, they should behave along the lines of our ideas, or the Catholics need to adapt. Everybody needs to start with himself or herself, and sometimes this is the most difficult part. If I take a look back on my situation, I passed difficult times. In that times with the crucifix, dismissal without notice is a dismissal without notice, but I met many new friends. I met very interesting people, made interesting experiences. I experienced depressive times, but my partner that I have at this time, I wouldn't have met her without that. And I hope that this time of my life continues with her for the rest of my life.
Oder falls dann doch noch bald mal die technologische Singularität eintritt, dauert es dann noch länger. Ich möchte euch mitgeben, dass wir
so what I would like to tell you is that we need really commitment. We don't need heroes, but we are allowed to have our come out. Maybe you saw the Superman film with the S, and then you said, it's not an S, it's not for Superman, it's not for secular man, but it's the sign for hope. So especially for our convention, I have a new T-shirt. So this is the new shirt.
Es steht für
so the F for freedom, but also for free thought, for the freedom to approach the other people, not to criticize them. Criticism that should damage them or harm them, but we need free thinkers, the free thinkers who goes out, and a free thinker that we don't need to hide behind our shirt. Thanks a lot for your attention, and thanks again for the invitation.